Well, hello.
Boom.
How's it going, my brother?
Yeah, it's good. It's John. I've been about this is rad, right? The search for the rad thing, right?
Yes.
Not only did you use the same coloring as the movie Rad from our childhood when it was BMX thing,
Yes.
but I like that feeling, right, of creating something that is rad, something that just resonates. That was cool. That was fun. I can't wait to jump into this, right?
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, and lots of times in entertainment, like my buddy, good friend Phil Boutte, he designed the Blue Beetle, right? He and I have been working together for years. Really cool guy. Another brother, who is like one of the leading costume designers and prop makers in Hollywood. You know what I mean? He's a younger guy considering that competition. Black guy, all black team, very unique for that kind of work.
Oh wow.
And he and I have been friends for, I guess, almost a year. Working together, and he's just a heck of a guy. And he built the Blue Beetle, and he did such an amazing job. And he and I were just talking about it the other day at a screening, and he was excited to do something because he knew I was doing something with Wes. And then there's kind of been this slew of like, some journalists made this announcement that like, oh, if Latino people don't go to Blue Beetle, that Warner Brothers won't make new movies with Latino leads, or some like absurd comment.
Come on.
This is just like so bonkers, like just like scolding Latino people. And it's like, guys, people don't go to movies because they're like, oh wait, like I don't go, oh wait, the guy's white, better get there to like announce my subservience to this religion. And it's such a shame because Phil built something that was really rad, right? And then somebody just like took a dump all over it, right? And it's like, why can't we just enjoy the trailer? And it's an actor who in this case happens to be Latino, and just be like, oh, that's rad. Like, can't we define it as, is this rad? Like, oh, this is my personal time. I'm gonna go spend my personal time, which is really valuable, and my personal money. Don't have to, right? This isn't groceries or the health insurance. I'm gonna go to this film, right? And to see, Phil built this wonderful, incredible design, and then now somebody just like comes along and like just takes a dump on it, right? To like,
and it's gonna ruin it. It ruins it for people because then people feel like I'm not trying to make a political statement.
They're like, bro, I thought I was gonna go to the Blue Beetle, but now like what am I like? It creates now all of a sudden something that you were just comfortable with, kind of like the Bud Light and the Mid Light thing. People started to be like, whoa, dudes, I'm not on either side of this politically, or maybe even I feel good about the trans thing or whatever it is, but like I want to bring this beer because now all of a sudden I've now that like the most basic thing, like a Bud Light, crummy, local, crummy mass market beer now has a thing attached to it, right?
Yeah.
It kind of stolen the radness, out of it, because now it can't be rad. It can only be, oh, so you're in this camp now because you bought that.
So that means if you buy that, you are now this.
That's right. Or if you don't buy that, you're now this. And you're like, I just don't want it. I just don't actually want to be in on the conversation. Like like there's certain things that you morally fight for, but like it can't be that every choice you make is also your moral stand, right? As like, but then
it's hypocrisy, though. It's hypocrisy,
Yeah.
because if you iterate that out to, if you iterate all the way out, then it's like, well, hey, your computer, are you, morally, religiously, whatever aligned, politically aligned with the people that made your software or your hardware? And if not, man, why'd you buy that?
It's like, bro, you can't live that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Elon Musk said this interesting thing. He said, listen, if you don't even have nuanced disagreements with your religion, your partner, or your boss, then you're in a cult, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like my wife loved her to death. Do we think everything the same? No, it's absurd.
By no stretch.
And it's
Should
crazy,
you.
right? No, should you, right? You love your son more than anything in the world, but you and he probably see things differently. He maybe values something that you don't, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
But now all of a sudden, like, you're just like, oh, the Blue Beetle. Oh, that looks fun. Oh, well, there's this thing. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, guys, like, I'm not going to the voting booth right now, bro. I'm just kind of going out with my friends. We're going to get some popcorn. We're going to have a few laughs, right? And it's such a shame, that sort of robbery of it, and in that case, it's a friend, and he's built something special, and it's like, geez, guys, like, really, and then really, and so I think that, I love this idea of something that's rad, something that is rad, has none of those attachments to it, right, John? Like,
exactly.
This is just like, no, this is just a cool thing. It's not in a camp. It's just cool. Right? It's just rad. It has something that gets you excited. It fills your imagination, and those kinds of things. Probably you and I probably got into comics, and I also work in film and TV for the same reason, right? That we wanted to do what was rad. When we were a kid, we didn't say, "Oh, sweet, that's checking the whatever box in some political party." You're just like, no, you just wanted to be Indiana Jones. You know what I mean? I remember reading about a character I loved, which I don't know why they haven't made a movie out of him, is Night Thrasher, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's from the New Warriors, right? And I remember loving this character, right? I thought it was so cool. It was a new group out there, and but you weren't thinking like, oh, Adam, that checked this box. You just thought, oh no, this guy's so cool. I want to be like him. He has these things. Anyway, it's a shame, right? It's a shame because, and my hope, I think, with this, and I think with all of our work, is to try to like bring that feeling of, oh, that's rad, back.
That's it.
Instead, yeah, right?
There's so many things that are just rad, and my whole thing, and that's like the premise behind you and I coming together. It's like, let's just talk about these things that are awesome, whether they're contemporary things or things from our childhood, or because there's so much coolness out there, and it's funny because we're in this culture now where everything, like you said, everything, they're trying to check boxes, and they're trying to put everything into a box, and they're worried about things that none of us worried about growing up. They're like, oh well, we got to make sure this representation is here, and this representation is there, and it's like, sometimes it just doesn't even make any sense. You're just like, it's taking away from the story.
Yeah. And also too, it sort of creates this idea that like you're casting your life, right? Like a movie or something. Like, you don't look at your friends and be like, oh, that guy meets, he's that one, and I've got the gay friend here. I'm checking, that's not how you make friends. It's like, this is the guy who likes you. You share like similar ideas, and you're your buddy. And like, I mean, really, do you want to live a life where you're like, oh, I'm casting my friends, like instead of just like, like, oh, I better have the right books, the right whatever, because I'm trying to sort of signal something to other people. It's like, oh no, this guy's my friend, right? Like,
and it's artificial, and it's not even fun, And I know we're talking about things that are rad as opposed to things that are not rad, but like even me and my son, we watch some things, and we're just like the way they try to artificially put things in certain shows, and I won't name the shows, but we were just like, why do they have black elves here? This is stupid. What I mean? It's like, it doesn't even make any sense. I'm like, it's not like we were like, oh, let's go watch this show, there's going to be black elves. That's not how people think.
No, I'm a big kung fu movie fan, big time, right? Kong movies big time, right?
Oh man.
You know what I mean? I'm a diehard. You know, I was just at Tiger Cage, you know, Donnie Yen's early movie the other night, and it's like I love Donnie Yen, right? And in his movies, no, there's no white guys in those movies, right? They're shooting them in Hong Kong, you know, they're speaking Cantonese. It's like I don't, but I, you know, but I don't need there to be one in there because I can just they can just be them and I can just be me and we can just like each other, right? Like it's like I don't need Donnie Yen. Yeah, I don't need them to be me. I don't need to be them, and it's just cool. And so, yeah, I agree with you. It's a shame because, and then when it starts to happen, you start to feel like, wait, somebody keeping up the authenticity of what this is, right? Just like when I go into a Japanese restaurant and it's an all Japanese, you know, you're not mad because that's kind of what you came for, right? You were thinking that they were going to also have the other full representation because it's just what that is, right?
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
So, but it just kind of bastardizes it. I was watching last weekend. This was a Jet Li movie. So I guess Jet Li made movies in China before he made movies in Hong Kong. So this was young Jet Li movie that I watched him in, and it was you know, classic, you know, Shaolin versus Wu-Tang. Oh man, I just enjoyed the heck out of that movie. You know, it's kind of campy, great martial arts, and you know, and at no point did I sit there and say like, there's no westerns in this. You know, there's nothing with Chinese folks. How dare they do this? You know, I just enjoyed the movie.
That's right, because they're not. That's not. They're just telling the story. These are the people, and it works out that well. I know Jet Li, dude. The Once Upon a Time trilogy. Once Upon a Time. I mean, this is Once Upon a Time in China. Is one
that's my stuff.
No, I know, so good. So, anybody out there, if you haven't seen that, whatever you should do, you should stop watching us and go watch Once Upon a Time in China.
Absolutely.
But anyways, I agree. Jet Li and Wu Ping, those two. I mean, that Wu Ping was just like, and Jet Li were made to, you know, obviously to be together.
They're peanut butter and jelly of martial arts.
That's peanut butter and jelly. Oh, so good. And what's so dope about it is like you look at like Once Upon a Time in China, right? And then you look at the new Disney movie that tried to do a kung fu, you know, that tried to do the kung fu element of it, but it was all full of CG, right? Versus that Jet when he's like doing the fight in there. Remember when he's running around the scaffolding around the building? It's no, right? Jet's just on scaffolding on a building up a few story. No, just there. That's it. They didn't build the building in CG. They didn't add. No, that guy just happens to be like of the finest athlete who's ever lived, and he's running around that building, so he hope he doesn't fall off.
Exactly.
They ain't no other option. And you know what I mean? And it was just like, so we just had this tension to it, right? You're like, this guy is really happening right now, guys. And you want to be Pai Mei? Yeah, of course, dude. Come on, unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool, Tank. But anyways, I think about that, and that has nothing to do with because they still had a Chinese guy in both or whatever. There's nothing to do with that, but just like the fun of what Once Upon a Time is, like just the sheer reality of like, no, he's just on the edge of a real building. Oh, well, they kicked that guy off the scaffolding. They just had him drop the 15 feet to the ground.
You're like, dude,
this is hardcore. Yeah, this is hardcore.
But they were. Think about it. They were our superheroes. Our live action heroes were the Hong Kong martial artists. I mean, that was live action superhero stuff.
That was. I mean, it never gets old to me. I can always watch it. You know what I mean? And the early Jackie stuff, the early Jet stuff, you know, and then obviously Donnie's stuff, and then it just, anyways, it's that never gets old. But speaking of cool something that is rad, I'm gonna drop this here. So anybody who doesn't know Good Boy is a comic. It's on Source Point Press, the publisher. It's an anthropomorphic story where dogs are smart and sentient and they're good friends, human kind of equals in this world. And this dog, his human partner, the cop, has been killed, and he's going on a revenge spree. Kit Wallace does the art. It's fabulous. Garrett Gunn is the writer on it. and it's one of the stories I've enjoyed the most. I think, John, you and I have talked about how much we love Black Sad.
Yes. Oh man.
It's one of the best anthropomorphic stories. I think this it's not quite Black Sad. I don't think anything can be Black Sad, but it's, maybe 90% of that, and it's a hell of a story. They're just starting their third arc in it called Prodigal Son. And let me just see if I grab that issue right here. You can see the third arc is showing here. So the third arc just starts here. Boy, Prodigal Son is the third arc. Kit Wallace, you can see his art and colors. He does lines and colors as well. It's just, it's fun.
That looks phenomenal.
Writing's great. So anyway, so they did a crowdfunding campaign for a figurine, and I'm a sucker for figurines. That is for sure. So this is one of those things that is rad. So let's get this worked out.
Woo! Oh, we got an unboxing. Let's go.
Yeah, we got it with the switchblade.
That's the only way.
Okay, so let's pop this bad boy open here. Here we go. Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? 411 and 425. They numbered it. Certificate of authenticity.
Oh, nice.
Dope.
Okay.
Dope.
Only 425 of those.
Yeah, boom. So here it is. And the packaging on it, great, right? Pretty rad. Made it really. Whoa. This thing is huge.
Look at that, man.
Oh, okay. So you can see, dang, what a fun vinyl. Whoa. What a fun freaking vinyl. I love this. I love me some vinyls, as you can tell here in the back. I got the Bruce Lee one right there. And this is going on the shelf for sure. What a rad freaking vinyl here.
That's dope.
Isn't that cool? This is rad. This is definitely, hey, Corey, what's up, brother? Dude, anybody not checking out what Corey is doing with Andromenoids? The lines and colors, I mean, Corey is like, this is like, it's Leafield Reborn stuff. It's next level. You should check out what Corey's doing.
Dude, Corey's work is so, he gets so, it's so detailed. I mean,
I know.
I like when he posts pictures, granted, he also has some very fine women in it. I'm like looking into the details of the picture. I'm like, dang.
No, I mean, that book's going to take him 5 years to finish, but when it's done, it's going to be worth it.
I'm all over it. I'm all over it.
So that's what's, so that's my first. It's rad. And I know you've got a book you want to talk about. I've got a couple books to talk about.
I do have a book that I want to talk about.
Kick us off, man.
So I'm going to talk about a book, and I'm going to share my screen on this. Originally, when I first saw it, I think it was like, I always get the acronym wrong, MBN Publishing, NBM or MBN Publishing, published this 4-issue book called ROXANNA and The Quest for the Time Bird. Here. The artwork is sublime. This is, it's actually originally written in French. It's, the author is Serge Letendre, and the artist is Régis Lessois. And let me tell you, man, this book, the artwork is absolutely phenomenal. This is a story. And then they only published 4 graphic novels of this to complete this story arc. And it's, basically kind of the story of this world that's called Akbar. It's under threat from a god of old called Ramar, and they need to get this object called this timepiece in order to help kind of reseal what is keeping this gigantic godlike being trapped. And it's the story of this woman. She's called here. She's called Pelisse, but in the printing that I originally saw, English printing, she was called Roxanna, and she gets sent out by her mother.
Look at the artwork on this, John.
Oh,
I mean, it's
bro.
the French artists. I mean, they just are laying down stuff.
Oh,
but this
my
is
goodness.
French language book, right? Originally, was
French
that right?
language book. French language book originally. So they did this 4 issues. There are another like 8 issues that are like prequels and sequels to this that never were translated into English. And I'm on the cusp of getting them, despite the fact I won't be able to read them.
I know. So I'm definitely. I need to read this because these pages are blowing my mind here. When you look at I love this kind of art styling. You know, it's like they're working on a company called Magnetic Press. They are essentially a distributor for foreign comics in the U.S. and they do beautiful translations, beautiful hardcover renditions, and they're like $30.
Really?
And yeah, all traditionally done. You know, and they're like $30 for an 8.5 by 11 hardcover of the book. Because they're in a place where they can sell it to you at a price because they don't have to recoup.
Right.
They don't have to recoup creation costs, you know. But anyways,
these European. So like this is a French. It was originally in the French language, and it's actually a very fun story. I mean, it's this young lady. She goes on an adventure. She's got this little creature on her shoulder, Drew, and you get to learn more about who she is, kind of her connection to this creature. And this old guy right here, Bragon, he shows up, and you start to learn his connection to her, connection to the mom. It's a really fun, well-told tale. It has some surprises in it, and I'll tell you, now that I know that there are French editions of the prequel and sequel, I may just go ahead and get those in French and just muddle my way through it and enjoy it. But as you can see, this is top shelf. This is so rad, folks. You're either going to find it as Roxanna in the Time Quest, or it's just called, or it's just going to be if the Roxanna may not be in the name because they renamed the character to her original French name, which was Police. So it just may be the Quest for the Time Bird. But it's either the Time Bird or Roxanna and the Quest for the Time Bird.
I'm looking for right now. The Quest for the Time Bird on Amazon is getting you the Riege Master Roxanna and the Quest for the Time Bird. No picture available and not available. So this is going to take a search.
Yeah. This is going to take some work. This isn't something that you're probably, you probably won't just go to your LCS and just pick it up. But a little bit of elbow grease, and you'll be able to get your hands on this. So this was the first rad thing that I wanted to show.
Yeah. See, I'm looking at it right now. mycomicshop.com. It looks like I found it. Yeah,
1987.
Yeah, dude. That's going to be a purchase for you. That's definitely a purchase. What a beautiful book that is.
One other thing before we go on to what else is rad. You want to see what's rad? My shirt is rad.
Yes, oh, damn.
My shirt is
Kids and Monsters. Look at that.
Anybody, I'm gonna break out Kids and Monsters. Oh, there it is. Kids and Monsters, hardback, prestige. I got it upstairs on my shelf. Oh, I meant to actually increase you and not move you out of this. It's hardback. It's prestige. I have it on my shelf along with like my prestige, my other prestige books, like some Alex Ross books and some stuff like that. I mean, it is high quality. Adam always does a great job on his covers, and it's just high quality, and it's really a great tale. I mean, it's like, yeah, they're kids, but it's a well-told story that I think kids and tweens can definitely get into, but it's adult. It's written for an adult.
That's right. So, and the good news is this goes into retail to my publisher, Massive, who's doing The Exiled. In February, this will be available in stores in single issues. So it's crossing the line. It's crossing the line.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that is. I'm glad you're repping the T-shirt. My rad thing is, boom, Nemesis Reloaded.
Let's go.
So for anybody who doesn't know, Nemesis, it came out about, I think it might even have been 8 to 10 years ago, when he initially did it. Yes, probably about 10 years ago. He did it with Steve McNiven. Mark Millar did it, and I loved it back then. The film rights got optioned. They sold copies of it, but it just never became a movie or anything. And ultimately, as Mark Millar is building his Millar world, he's going to deal with Netflix. He wanted to revamp this character and sort of retell his origin story, if you will, in a way that, as happens with any story, you sort of think about it and you're like, oh man, it could have been better if.
Yeah.
So this is, I mean, this is not for the faint of heart. It's Mar I think some of his finest work. It's just out of this world. What he's doing here is Nemesis is like a reverse Batman. Parents were killed, and instead of becoming the good guy, he's become the bad guy.
Oh, and gotcha.
Wrecking Los Angeles, and he's brilliant like a Batman, skilled in the same way. He was trained by this master. It's interesting that it's like the reverse engine of Batman. And there's some incredible twists in this that you don't see coming. And I mean, and it's Millar, so it reads like a bullet, right? It just comes out of there. His dialogue, he's kind of the master of using just enough dialogue.
Let's see that.
Just enough dialogue to tell, like, even when it gets heavy, that's as heavy as it ever gets. But he's the master of using just dialogue to get the story, get all Mark Millar personality in there. His quips, his always his jabs at some political thing or whatever. But and then Jorge Jimenez. I mean, dude, I freaking love this guy's art. You can just see,
woo! Look at that.
Yeah, the pages, the layouts. You can just see, he's doing something absolutely out of this world. I still think that John Romita Jr. is his best team up that he's ever done. We need better routers. The data compression is stepping. Oh, okay. Dang.
Yeah, that's
however, though, I would say his Ricardo Ortiz team up in this Hit Girl in Colombia, I mean, that's definitely number 2. So number 1, John Romita Jr. team up. Number 2, Ortiz, but then Jorge Jimenez as far as art team up. So as far as story, this is the most balls to the wall you've ever read. You're like as you're reading the book. You're like this is happening. It's taking you on this roller coaster like nothing else of his books, And I've been a fan of his since Kick-Ass, and I love what he does, and he's interesting enough. So then that ties into.
So real quick before you go on to the next property, is there a hero that is kind of like, I guess the anti-hero of that story, that there's like a hero that is his nemesis? The nemesis is nemesis?
No, so the nemesis in this, in this 4-issue trade, there isn't. That is to be at the end. There's a reveal. I don't want to give away.
Okay.
So take it into the next arc, which is called Big Game, and that kind of reveals that. But there isn't. But it's like a Sherlock Moriarty, and it's just about Moriarty. It's a little more nuanced than that. In the way he's your good guy and bad guy in one person when you get into the story.
Okay.
But it's just got incredible twists. Now
I gotta check that out.
And I know I don't want to jump in because the next rad thing ties into that book, but I'll let you jump into what.
No, do it. If it's connected, let's do it.
So the next rad thing is this.
Let me see what you got
there. The Big Game.
The Big Game.
Big Game. So this is both variant covers on this single issue. There's 2 out. Number 3 is coming. So what this is the book that ties, and it's Pepe Larraz is art. I don't love him as much as I loved Jorge, or definitely not as much as I love John Romita Jr. But cool art. It's solid. I would say that I call it really solid art.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe
Oh,
not.
wow.
But maybe not the art that I'm just like, yeah. But it's the books. It blows your mind every page. So what this is this ties all Millar world together. That's Ambassadors, Kick-Ass, Hit Girl. You got
Oh, wow, really?
all of them. So what has happened is Millar had been complaining about the multiverse online quite a bit,
Yeah.
right? Even though he was a contributor to it because he wrote Civil War. He's like, multiverses ruin comic books. So he's doing the opposite. Instead of expanding his universe, he's killing off all his own characters.
Oh, snap.
So it's like, and so NEMESIS is like I shouldn't say the only, but he's sort of like your central point of view character in the story. So like you don't necessarily know all of Millar's stuff to get into this. Knowing them probably makes it more fun. I know a lot of them, but really, if you've just done NEMESIS, you can jump right into the big game. But it is so. But every issue, you're like, he did what? It's that same like roller coaster of like, what is happening? And the twists and turns in it. It's Millar doing what he does, which is kind of like flipping the bird to everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And he kind of flips the bird to everybody. And he's like, "This is my anti-multiverse. Instead of expanding the universe, I'm just actually doing the opposite, killing everybody off."
That's right.
So it's really kind of a cool take, and like each issue, you're just like, "What is happening?" And I think that's what I love about Millar is like, you're like, "Oh, he's not going to go there. He went there. Oh wait, I didn't see that." And he's amazing that he has these really great twists that flip the book on you. Hit Girl in Columbia, another great example of epic twists by Millar, where you think the story's going this way, and he does these abrupt turns where he plants the evidence for, so they don't feel just like bad writing. But it's like he gives you these usual suspects kind of twists, right? Where all of a sudden you realize Kevin C. guys are Sosei, and you're like, oh, he fooled me.
And you're like, he actually set me up. This wasn't just like a last minute. Let me do this.
I'm running out of ideas. Yeah, it's like he's doing it's like you're watching a magician with these books. It's like you're watching a magician and he's doing the card trick, and your eyes trained on him, and then he still fools you. Right? Yeah, that's what I call. That's like true. That's writer. I think at the high levels. That's like The Usual Suspects being a great example of that. LA Confidential, The Sixth Memento. These movies where you're like, I'm watching. Oh, I'm not going to let this magician get past me. I'm watching everything, and then you go, wait, he tricked me, and I've been staring. I'm staring right at his hands. I'm watching every card, and he tricked me.
Yeah,
and I think that is one of the most incredible things in cinema or literature or wherever, when you're like, wait a minute, I'm watching and he tricked me. I'm paying full attention and he did
attention. Yeah, and you're like,
I'm paying attention. I've read everything and I didn't see the clues. And then all of a sudden he drops the "I see dead people" on you, and you're like,
yeah. Then it's like, it all makes sense. Holy smokes!
It all makes sense. And I thought it was this. And Millar is great at those kinds of twists. Now, obviously, the twist in Sixth Sense is one of the best, maybe one of the best executed ever in cinematic or history ever. But either way, dude, Corey, you got to watch LA Confidential. We're talking about Curtis Hanson's greatest film. It's really, you're going to see Russell Crowe, Kevin Spacey, Guy Pearce, the performance of their careers, with, I think, arguably one of the greatest crime thriller scripts ever written. I mean, it's like, I would put that 7, Usual Suspects, LA Confidential as the best ever done. And you should watch that. If you're going to watch anything this weekend, LA Confidential, you will not regret.
I'm watching this weekend.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so this is rad. This is like, this is what you got into comics for, where it's this much fun. You're like, oh my gosh, it is fun. So that's what's rad.
That's absolutely rad. And I love, there's nothing better when you have that perfect marriage of writing and art. You know, it's like when both are really bringing it on a project, man, there's to me, I mean, I'm an LA guy originally too, so I love movies, but comics are my favorite medium. I love to read, so I love reading books. I love reading, but comics are my favorite medium because comics done well, it's such a left brain, right brain exercise, you know, because there's a passivity, but there's also an activeness because you're actively reading. There's nothing like it to me, and I'm just like, man. You know, I'm that's why these books, I take notes too when you're talking about some of these cool things that I haven't read, and I haven't read a lot of Millar's stuff beyond Kick-Ass.
Oh, okay.
I know I'm missing out.
Yeah, well, Kick-Ass is amazing. Hit Girl and Dave Lazowski, or however you say it, are in there, and it's anyways, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite comics. You know, it was one of the things that got me to love them in a really special way. The book did. Anyways, yeah. So Millar, you can't really go wrong with his stuff. I feel like he's somebody that is really, he's pushing envelopes.
Yeah.
He's
the real deal.
It's like and like having like a hell of a good time doing it, right? You're just like, I'm having fun.
You know, I mean, at the end of the day, and this is one of the reasons why I'm liking this whole comic book renaissance is, as somebody that loves to read, I can always tell if somebody is writing out of a love for writing, you know? Yeah. And I actually, you know, I'm not that hard to entertain, and I enjoy people, and I especially enjoy watching people progress as they get better in telling stories. But there's nothing that turns me off more than just that mind. You read something, you're like, this person just cashed it in, man. They just got paid to do this. You know, they don't even care about this. And that's why I'm such a big fan of what's going on nowadays. People are writing their respective opuses, I don't know what you call it, but people are bringing their best stuff to the table.
Yeah, and that's what I feel is happening with, and I love it's happening in the indie comic book space. Is that maybe not everybody is Millar, right? We're talking about one of the greats in the game. Most people are not writing at his level, but people are at least bringing their heart to the game.
That's it,
right? And so there's a lot to be said for that. You know what I mean? And so, but really, if you're getting on Millar, you're like, oh, dude, I'm watching one of the best do it the best, right? And it's like,
absolutely. So
anyways,
I have one other rad thing, and this harkens back to my childhood. So last week I talked about the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. Around the same time, another 12-issue series came out, and it was Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. Now, this was 84, 85 was such a special time because within a month of each other, maybe a month after, Secret Wars started after Crisis. So you had a year of these, you know, for the first time, these world-bending story arcs. And this one, I know people, I'll just put it this way. I'm a fan of Jim Shooter. I know a lot of people have no love for Jim Shooter. I think he did phenomenal things for the comic book industry. I never worked for the man, so I can't really speak, you know, from that perspective. But just in terms of how he really reined in the universe. I mean, you knew it's like if anything was X, it was Chris Claremont. It was going through Claremont. He had things really. He had things so well cordoned off that you could really coordinate. And this was a story that he did called Secret Wars. And the thing with Jim Shooter was, at the time, Marvel and Hasbro were collaborating a lot. So Jim Shooter had done work with Transformers, with G.I. Joe. So, I mean, basically, it was kind of a trifecta. You'd have the toys from Hasbro. You'd have the comics from Marvel. And in some cases, there was also cartoons. There was no cartoon that that came along with this, but there were these awesome toys that came along with this. So you basically have a world where you have almost this childlike, it's almost like a fanboy that is omnipotent, that takes a whole bunch of heroes and a whole bunch of villains and says, y'all got to throw down to the death. I mean, as a kid, those are the same kind of games we used to play. It's like, okay, now I'm the Hulk. Now you're so-and-so. You know, me and my cousins, we used to always play, like, one of us would actually be like, we would be, oh man, how did I just forget the name of that character? Amazo. One of us would be Amazo. And the others, we would just continue to think of heroes to fight. And by the end, my cousin or myself, whoever was Amazo, had the powers of all the heroes, because you've gone through the whole gamut of heroes. You know, so you kind of try to start with your street level heroes. You're like, okay, I'm gonna be Captain America first. I'm gonna fight him. And you try to keep leveling up and leveling up and leveling up. Then you're Thor. Then you're the Hulk. It's just a fun. It's a fun romp where you get to see a bunch of heroes and villains fight. It is still very, while it's still very geared to kids, it still has that very kind of adult element to it. I mean, the Wasp gets killed in there. You see the Wrecking Crew doing a lot of damage. They jack up the She-Hulk. They do a whole bunch of things. You see Doctor Doom at his best. I mean, he teams up with Galactus, and then he fights the Beyonder. I mean, it's just like, we're going to take these characters, and we're just going to do a whole bunch of rad stuff with it. And that's the reason why I love Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. I'm not too sure if it's in some kind of a graphic novel. If it is, it's worth picking up. You don't have to know a lot of kind of what was going on in that Bronze Age of heroes, because they kind of just throw all these heroes on a planet, you know, battle world, and they battle, and then they figure out their way. How do you get off this planet? So, I mean, to me, as a kid, I was like, this is rad, because this is what we do anyway. You're just like, hey, what if so-and-so fought so-and-so? Now, of course, it was only Marvel heroes. I mean, when we were kids, we would mix Marvel and DC heroes and, you know, whoever else together. But
we were agnostic. Just one who was, well, you know, what was bad, you know?
Yeah, who's rad. And that,
yeah,
so,
totally.
so from my perspective, this is just a great fun story. The writing is by Jim Shooter, and he does a great job. And don't get me wrong, Jim Shooter was always a businessman. I mean, it's like he made sure there was cool things in there that could be changed that could be made into toys and stuff like that. Mike Zeck is one of my favorite pencilers. He had a long run on Captain America that I read, and he's just one of those kind of great artists. I'd say kind of along the lines of like a Romita Jr. that just really brings a lot of life and a lot of like almost hyperbole to the actions that happen in the story. And I love that kind of stuff in comics.
Yeah, no, I am with you on that, and it's like I would say that I have less vocabulary in the world of Shooter, other than, you know, from my early days. But I know that you are a fan, and I agree that there are good things that were done. You know what I mean? In comics, there's still great things being done, even from the big two. Just it's getting smaller and fewer, and it's usually somebody like trying to stand for their thing in the midst of it. Like. Yeah. Any big corporation, there's maybe some people at the top who are making choices you don't like, but there's probably lots of guys in the middle who are just trying to make a living and doing the best they can, right? Like when I look at Nick Klein, what he's doing with Hulk, like his art Nick Klein's art is blowing my mind. Even though the story I kind of got a crazy place, but Nick Klein's art is just boom, and it's been oddly declined. They've just done cool stuff. Once again, those are artists who are doing their best, right? Yeah. With what they. And I think there's nothing wrong. You know, nobody needs to like, oh, you should really not be. It's like, no, they got to eat. They got to make it work. And absolutely, they're doing the best they can, you know, in the biz. And so I still, as much as pro indie, I don't want to disregard like a lot of honest, cool artists who are like any of us. They need to eat. So they got to go where they got to go, right? Yeah. Absolutely. So
and I think that's the other coin. That's the other coin of what you and I were talking about at the top of the show. It's like, you know, these things get so heavily politicized that a lot of people just get caught in the middle. Yeah, there are some people that are that are kind of radicalized about these things. But actually, I don't think that's the majority of folks. I think it's just a very, very loud minority. Most artists want to work. Most writers want to write. And and corporations are being corporations. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of you do what you can. The indie scene, I think, is important. And I know in a certain regard, it's caused a lot of angst amongst people because, we've seen some of the characters that we love do X, Y, and Z. But I mean, it's got us all where we are now. We're all out here making things. We're all out here creating IP, So how's that not a good thing? How's that not a good thing? And I agree with Corey. I like to work on cool stuff too. I mean, who does? We want to work on cool things, and you don't want to be told, "Hey, Corey, no, you can't work on that." If you work on that, then you're going to be labeled this. What?
Yeah, right. We just want to work on what's rad. We want to be a part of what's rad, right? As we're talking about it. So, well, there's rad things to be found out there. There's Millar. There is ROXANNA. I just found it on Abe Books. I found it. I ordered a copy of that volume on Abe Books of ROXANNA and the Time. I forgot the name of it. It's ROXANNA and it's ROXANNA and the Time Bird. Yeah. Volume 1 has been ordered. We got the Good Boy vinyl. Dudes, go get some rad. Go be a part of some rad stuff. And like Millar said, when people were harping on him because he was promoting creators that were maybe on this side or that side of the line, he was like, "Dudes, chill out and go read some comics.
That's it.
Go read some comics. Go find the rad stuff.
Go find the rad stuff." Speaking of rad, Tank is a very underrated artist. And
Tank, how do I not know Tank's work, man? I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head here. I don't know Tank's work.
So Tank's last work, it's been a while, Tank, since you published was a Scalpel, right? I mean, but Tank is a phenomenal artist. There is so much talent, of just so many people. And one of my hopes is like, if we continue to grow, we can all work together.
Swarm?
What are you working on now, Tank? Tank, what are you working on now? I know you have a campaign coming up.
Yeah, okay. I did see a lot of retweets, and I can't get my mind on it. But anyways, got to run, John. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Okay. Yeah, well, I'd love to see some Tank stuff.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, brother, I know that I appreciate just us being able to hang. And when's the baby due?
So the baby's coming in on the 14th. So this is kind of the end of my streaming. This weekend I'm on with after this, and then I got to check out. Because I got a shoot next week. Yeah. I got a commercial I'm shooting, and then I'm signing off, just dad for a little bit, and taking care of my wife and new baby and also toddler. So as you know the moment.
Yes.
So.
Man, well, congratulations, my brother. And once you're able to resurface, then we will come back with some more rad stuff. Until then, just be a rad dad.
Boom. Likewise.